Manasvini, welcome to Sustainability Next series. It's called SN Dialogues. Thank you for joining us. And yes, so the real estate sector in India is rapidly growing, and the environmental stress comes along with that growth. You would agree with that. Indian real estate sector is doing a lot to go green and go environment friendly, but I guess it's not enough. But the good news is that the Urban Land Institute has come to India, and you have joined them as the director. Congratulations for moving up from Chennai to Delhi, from Chennai Metropolitan to ULI Delhi. Congratulations. So let's keep it like a chatty one, no very formal kind of a thing. So my first question is for the lay reader, what is Urban Land Institute and what is it doing in India?
Absolutely, Benedict. And first of all, thank you so much for that introduction and taking the time to do this. Very quickly, you know, the Urban Land Institute India is a national council. We just had our first key event for our financial year in Delhi last week. So I'm definitely present with ULI Delhi, but as director, I'm also the representative for Mumbai, Chennai, Bangalore, all of the cities. So just a very quick clarification on that. But no, it's wonderful to be here, and I'm very happy to chat with you. Sustainability is one of our global mission priorities. ULI has three mission priorities: decarbonization and resilience. Sustainability falls under that. Housing attainability and education of the next generation of young leaders. So I'm very happy to be here to take this conversation up with you. So do let me know what I can answer for you today.
Sure. So readers are quite broad, spread out in the sense that they are not, they don't belong to one sector. So we'll keep this simple so that everybody gets to understand where the real estate sector is headed in this on its environmental path. Okay, so how? Well,
I mean, Benedict, I'm sorry to interrupt, but then I think, you know, you'd also ask me to very quickly introduce the Urban Land Institute. I realized that I didn't do that. Why don't I go ahead and tell you very quickly what we are?
What is its mission in India in the next 2 years?
Sure, absolutely. So the Urban Land Institute, for the people who don't know, is a research and education institution bringing together multidisciplinary actors across the built environment. So we have a lot of our members from the real estate world, but also from the investor world, architects, planners, lawyers, anybody who has anything to do with changing the built environment is a part of ULI. We're a member-led organization. We have 45,000 plus members worldwide. We have representation in nearly every major city in the world across the Americas, Europe, and Asia Pacific, and have been around since 1938. So we're the oldest organization in this field, but that's ULI in a nutshell.
I was thinking why it took so long for India to join.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think fair question, and everybody's asking me about this, and I think sometimes it's just about being in the right place at the right time. ULI India was fortunate to get the backing of 8 major founding partners. So we had ANAROCK, Blackstone, Brookfield, Hines, Raheja, RMZ, Tata, and the Xander Group, you know, join forces for the first time, you know, that these companies are coming together to back an initiative of such nature and say, hey, we want to bring this global brand to India because there needs to be a platform for all of these actors to come together, leaving the competition outside the room. We're purely thought leadership focused. We aim to kind of bring to India what's at the forefront of the built environment that's happening worldwide. And I think it was the right time to do it.
So how many members have joined from India?
So just to give you, you know, a little bit of a snapshot, short answer is at the moment we're at 120. But that's 1 year ago, we were at 0, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we've only been in operations officially since January 2023. And our first, official financial year started this July. So in the last effectively 9 months, we've got 120 members on board. And
That's
for
amazing.
reference, ULI Hong Kong has about 600 members. Singapore has about the same. And they've existed for a lot longer than ULI India. And I think that this goes to show what potential we have for the market over here.
Yeah. So what does ULI intend doing, let's say in the first year, in the second year, the third year? Quickly.
Absolutely. So I think our, mission is really simple, Benedict. I think one, as a brand, we're known globally for not only providing opportunities to our members to, establish themselves as a thought leader in the built environment field, but also as a platform for, people in this field to network and to create truly, groundbreaking research through our initiatives and centers, right? And we aim to bring the same to India. So I think number one, what we aim to do to India in the next year and in the next 2-3 years is to establish brand, make sure that ULI becomes a household name. Two, I think that there is a lot of interest from ULI members abroad about India. I think India is the world's most important, largest real estate market. And so I think that there's a lot of interest from many of our members outside of India about what's happening within India. And I think that the people over here know what's happening, but then we aim to showcase all the wonderful work that we're doing in decarbonization, housing attainability, and in education of the real estate sector to the rest of the world. So in a nutshell, that's our plan.
Got it. How does it affect the consumer in the end? Because that's the biggest, yeah.
I think how it affects the consumer is that one, I think, at the moment we're filling a gap in the Indian market. I think that what members get.
What gap?
The gap is that at the moment there isn't a platform to truly kind of bring about knowledge in the realms of our mission priorities. And if you look at ULI, we have a knowledge finder that's award winning. And so simply the content that we've amassed since, 1938 is something that's available to all our members. So it's a two-way street. One, we want to bring all of those global learnings to India and make it available to members here. Two, I want to ensure that we put India on the global map. And we've got some wonderful initiatives in sustainability, decarbonization in the private sector that I want to showcase to the rest of the world through the platform that ULI is. So that's the gap that we're filling.
Yeah. So the biggest advantage I see is that so Indian real estate sector rarely collaborates, although there is CREDI and all these associations. So do you think this would bring a genuine collaboration between the members?
Absolutely the intention. I think just the fact that we have these 8 founding partners come together, is itself telling of the fact that this is what we're aiming to do. All of our initiatives are member-led. So if you look at my executive committee, you have senior C-suite executives from the companies that I just spoke about, sit together on the same table and speak to one another, leaving the competition outside the room. And I think that establishes the base. Our focus is to involve people at the top level. And once, they collaborate, that trickles down. I truly see this as an opportunity for us to leave the competition outside the room and create, meaningful conversation.
So do you think this was led by the private equity players and the institutions? Because real estate guys by themselves won't come together.
I think it's an effort that's a little bit collaborative. So if you look at our founding partners and our annual sponsors, of course, we have people from the private equity on it, but we also, of course, have, developers on it. We have been strategic in engaging with people from the developer community like Hines, who are present globally. The country head of Hines is also a flagship kind of flag bearer for ULI India, and helps us personally in establishing the organization here. And we have, representation from the Indian Institute of Human Settlements to see how we can explore that, relationship between not just private equity and developers, but also from an academic perspective to bring all three together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
beyond. So no, I wouldn't say that it's entirely led by private equity. I will say it's a true collaboration across the board.
I understand, but it's Blackstone and others are big players.
Yes.
So they would have driven this collaboration, I guess. Anyway, that's for
No,
another
but we can also speak about that. I mean, just to give you some context, Blackstone, Brookfield, Hines are all global partners with ULI. They've been engaged with ULI, for many, many, many years. So it was natural for us to reach out to them to see how to bring it to India, because they're players who've been involved in that, kind of field abroad. They know what ULI brings to the table and they were willing to back it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Moving ahead, when you say accelerating decarbonization, so when you say you accelerate, you should know where you are today. So is there something you could share?
So I think that ULI's mission in India specifically is to focus on showing the rest of the world where we are on decarbonization. If I had to be entirely honest with you, we've just begun operations, but we hope to be able to profile all of the work that we are doing in decarbonization to establish a baseline, right?
Okay.
We've got Sanjay from Tata, who's very passionate, about decarbonization and making sure that all Tata buildings, are net zero. And so one of our focuses for decarbonization is to establish that baseline.
Yeah, that's interesting. So how far is the Indian real estate sector from net zero?
So I have to tell you, Benedict, I don't come from the real estate sector. I come from a planning perspective. So if you'd like, I can answer this from a planning kind of stance.
Yeah.
I think that for net zero, I can speak about this from policies, from a government perspective. I think that a lot of the initiatives for achieving net zero, of course, comes from private players striving to achieve it, working, with councils like Griha, etc., and making that happen in their own companies. But I think that a lot of the incentivization needs to happen from the center and from the state, right? So I think that the dialogue between the private and the government is something that we need to focus on, and we need to bring these actors together to the same table to see how some of our policies can change to have cities that overall have, net zero as a goal. So I think that that's where the planner in me kind of comes into play. And I think that we're getting there. There's definitely more, talk about it. There's initiative on it. But to be very honest, I think that, sometimes we try to do something because we know that it's important. And at the same time, we lack a certain expertise when it comes to this field. So I think everybody learns on the go. And that needs to change. And hopefully ULI can bring that expertise.
So what do you expect to come out of closer collaboration? What do you expect? Or what can the consumer expect?
See, better cities for all, Benedict. I think, having worked very closely with governments in the past, I know that a lot of the things with net zero, get built into the DNA of our city making, which is the master plan. Now, whether the master plan is the right way, to go about making cities or not is for another conversation. But then I think that, things like last mile connectivity, things like transit-oriented development, things like, building, putting in net zero as a requirement within your building codes, I think can make a huge difference to the end consumer when it comes from a policy perspective.
So to what extent you think the government, the policy and the practice on field had the gap? You think the gap has come down, narrowed down, or is it still quite wide? Because you worked in planning, I'm asking you, and policy.
Depends on the state. I think that Tamil Nadu, where I was working in, has definitely, tried to bridge that gap. I think the effort has to be commended. So I think that it's becoming narrower, but there's a lot of work to be done.
From the center? I mean, you think largely depends on the states?
I think the center actually has a fantastic, team in place to make the policies, and the thinking is definitely changing. Like I say, even at the center, the gap is becoming, the efforts to make that gap smaller are happening.
Mhm.
And then the way that trickles down to the states depends on each state.
So the more I see, a lot of things that happen are largely helping the premium building segment, commercial building segment. Do you see how this will trickle down to the affordable segments and things like that? How will ULI work towards that segment?
So I think that affordable from a ULI perspective is something we have to define for India. I think that housing attainability elsewhere in the world is not the same as it is for India.
Yeah.
For example, when we talk about affordable housing, some of the ULI studies abroad include how do you kind of have mixed use office spaces that can also double up as residential to address housing shortage crisis. I think India, the situation is different. I think when we talk about affordable housing attainability, evidently the talk about informal settlements comes into play, which is why we're working closely with the Indian Institute of Human Settlements to see how we can address housing attainability for ULI India specifically. And I, focus on the India part of it because our approach to housing attainability has to be different. So we will work closely with academia on this.
Okay, my most favorite question, which I've been holding back, is how do you get the next gen of real estate developers? How do you educate them, and what is it that they lack?
Benedict, this is a really good question because I've been in this role 9 months, and something that I've realized is that there is no real path, like career progression in real estate. All the stories that I listen to, people stumble into real estate, whether it's, accidentally they discover it, right? Including some of the stalwarts in this industry who used to be chartered accountants and then discover real estate. So we hope to be first of all, ULI has a learning component, certified courses, internationally renowned, that we hope to bring to India. Two, I think our Young Leaders Group is our flagship affinity group. It's the one that's taken off the most easily and has been adopted very quickly by the community, because this opportunity to learn more about career progression and education in this sector isn't relevant. So we've launched an unfiltered series, wherein we bring our YLG members. We say anybody under 35 is a young leader. We bring together young leaders with senior industry leaders to talk very candidly, very casually about what career progression and what a path in this field looks like. We've had 2 editions, one with Sanjay Dutt in July, one with Anuj Puri in August. We're having our 3rd one with Radhadhir on Monday, 9th of October, and another one with Amit Diwan later in October. And I think that, these events drive the education initiative through our Young Leaders Group. We also have other incentive initiatives in the pipeline. We want to be able to see how to engage with institutes. We have plans for it. I'm not allowed to divulge them yet, but then you'll definitely be hearing more on that front. What I can divulge is that we have a worldwide program called Urban Plan, which is basically a capacity building kind of module that ULI has built very successfully. And what it's aimed at high school students, because we say that how do you get someone interested in real estate as a career from the youngest age? So Urban Plan takes Lego blocks, has a 500-meter by 500-meter kind of neighborhood in place, and then you have a group of about 6 people. The 6 people take on different roles, the finance head, planning head, programming head, marketing head, and the sustainability head. And each of those heads has a separate kind of checklist to tick, and they need to talk and speak to one another to make the ideal settlement. To basically say that, to work on the urban, you need to have kind of inputs from all of these sectors. And hugely successful program, in the Americas has been rolled out in Hong Kong and Singapore as well. And we'll see, it started out with high school students, has been taken to universities, has been adopted by government officials for capacity building. So worldwide, this is one way that we approach education as well in the real estate sector.
That's interesting. I think the one big question, rather the gap, is in the skills area. So how do you expect ULI to work on bridging this gap, especially skills in the greening of these skills, where a plumber is more aware of how to save water and things like that?
I'll just say, Benedict, that hopefully we can bring urban plan to India, and that will truly be a module wherein everybody can have a basic understanding, of what it requires to contribute to the built environment from a green perspective. Otherwise, I think we have ULI learning courses that are open to all of our members. So
when you say we bring urban plan to India, you admit that there's no urban plan right now.
Urban plan is the name of our program. No, I don't. I mean, I'm an urban planner and I work directly on the third master plan for Chennai. So there is no way I can, kind of agree with you on that statement. Okay. I think that there's a lot of urban, on the contrary, I actually think that this is a great time to be an urban planner in India. I moved back to India from Korea 2 years ago, because I saw that finally, urban planners were becoming kind of sought after. Biggest IPCs, take, all of your, consulting firms, they're all looking for urban planners to collaborate with PSUs, to see how to provide support to the government for planning policies, right? And even the government, I think, has published fantastic job positions for urban planners. So it's looking really, really good. But
we are struggling in Bangalore to have the master plan.
Bangalore's a special case, huh? You've had one master plan cancelled and then the other one underway right now.
Yeah. Even that, we're not sure where it's going. And you from Chennai, I'm not sure if you're able to, if the next big rains come, you're able to manage.
I'm going to be a true person who worked in the government and say that urban planning falls with the Chennai Metropolitan Development Authority, and stormwater drain falls with the Greater Chennai Corporation. But only to say that, honestly, this is a reflection of how in silos our teams kind of work. I think as someone who has been, a consultant within the system, I think we need to see how to have better coordination across different departments to be able to have basically.
So to some extent, ULI will help have this happen?
ULI will try to see how to foster dialogue with the government for sure. I think that from a thought leadership perspective, at the very least, we definitely aim to engage with the government and then see how to take it from there.
Cool. Thank you so much, Manasvini, for your time. This has been interesting. And when you do your Bangalore event, let me know. I'll come and catch up with you.
Sounds good, Benedict. I'm actually going to be in Bangalore later this month. If you want to catch up, then very happy to quickly say hello.
Sure.
But thank you so much for this interview. And, please do contact me for any clarification details that you would need. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time, Benedict.
Thank you, Yash. Thank you for organizing this. And thank you, Benedict. Wonderful to meet you.
Thank you. Sure. Same here.
Bye.